Welcome to the Go Slow to Go Fast Lifestyle Podcast, the space where we breathe deeply, live more intentionally, and find meaning in the messy middle of life. I'm your host, Kendra Chapman, mom of triplets, busy professional, caffeine lover, and big believer in slowing down so we can show up fully. If you're a busy person navigating career, parenthood, midlife challenges, or all of the above, you're in good company. Around here, we don't chase perfection. We build rhythms that support peace, clarity, and joy. In today's episode, it is for anyone who's ever looked around a room, surrounded by people, and still felt completely alone. We'll unpack how loneliness can sneak up on us in the most familiar places, and I'll offer a few gentle, research-backed steps to help you rebuild rooted connections right in your own community. So whether you're listening during your commute, folding laundry, or sneaking in a few minutes with like a warm cup of tea, this moment is just for you. Take a breath, let the noise soften, and let's begin. Well, hello everyone. Welcome. If you are new to the podcast, I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for being here. And if you are returning and you're a subscriber and you're listening weekly, thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up every week. So this week, what's bringing me Hygge? It was something really simple, but it kind of sparked my creative thinking about what I wanted to do for this episode. And it was kind of surprising. It was at a swim meet. I showed up for my boys, like I always do, arms full, right, with bags and chairs and snacks, the cooler, all the things, doing the mom thing. My heart's full, and the scene was buzzing. Tents were going up, people were putting down their foldy chairs, whistles were blowing, people were on megaphones trying to make sure kids knew where to go. And sunscreen, you could smell the sunscreen in the air. And I jumped in to help put up tents because that's what I do. Smiling at a few familiar faces I haven't seen in a year because it's the first swim meet of the summer, making small talk, all the things. But then something inside me felt a little off, disconnected, like I was floating through it, but not rooted in it. I felt like I was an outsider just looking in. And it wasn't anyone's fault. No one was being unkind. But I realized I've spent so many years building connections in other places. I haven't invested in the people right here in my everyday backyard. The ones who sit on these same bleachers or in the same folding chairs that I do. The ones whose kids swim alongside mine. Now, granted, I've only lived in Tennessee in this area for we're going on 5 years, and I haven't lived in this area that long. Probably lived here 4 years, 3-4 years, and really haven't had that much time to really connect with people because I've been working, and I've been working and building relationships in other places that are at least 45 minutes to an hour away from where I live. So, that all has something to do with it. And granted, I live in a farm or on a farm out in the country, and some would say it's in the middle of nowhere. So I don't really have a neighborhood necessarily. I know my neighbors and I interact with them more than anybody else in this community. But as far as the sports community and what my kids are doing, I just, felt a little disconnected as I watched the other team come in from another state and set up their chairs, and they set up their circles with all their foldy chairs and their coolers and their wagons. They're reconnecting. That you could tell they hadn't seen each other all school year. So, it's that we're ending one routine of school and we're going into summer routine, which for some of us, it's a sports team and you haven't seen them in a while. So it's reconnecting. And I just realized watching the other team stroll in from out of state and set up all their circles, laughing and joking and reconnecting after a year of, not seeing each other, I realized I had been missing out on this experience. And so that was a quiet realization for me that stayed with me all day and into kind of drafting the notes for this show today. I just felt like it resonated with me that I needed to reflect on how I'm communicating and connecting with my local community. And you've heard me talk about Hygge, that Danish concept of cozy contentment. And for me, it's typically being in my house. I am a homebody. I want to stay home because the majority of what I do out in the world day to day, my 9 to 5, so to speak, is around people all the time. And so I'm giving of myself. I'm a servant leader. I'm listening to others' needs. I'm solving problems all day long. I'm making decisions all day long. And so then when I come home, all I want to do is just be home. My kids say to me often, when are you going to retire? When are you going to be home? Is there any way that you're just going to be home all the time? And so I've been thinking about that, and I think it might be time for me to make that shift sooner than later because I am 50. My kids are 10. They're going to be 11 in September. And so I really only have 6 or 7 years, probably 6 years till they go off to college. And so I really want to maximize that time with them. And some might say it was more important to do that when they were younger, but I really feel, being most recently a middle school principal, being an administrator, being a teacher, being a coach, getting into social media, they might get a phone. Now, I have my own opinion on that. I'm not going to give my kids a phone for a long time. But they're still going to be around friends who have phones if they don't get one of their own. They're going to be on devices in schools for most of the time because that's what most schools do now. So they're going to be on technology, like it or not. I'm starting to realize that I have very little time to connect with my boys until they go off to college. And so I want to maximize that time. And so just watching, the comings and goings at the swim meet and seeing how many people were connected with their kids, how many were on devices and weren't really engaged with their kids, how many gave a device to a kid just to be busy and not engaged, or there were different levels of connection going on around me. And I noticed I didn't feel like I had any definitely didn't have any deep connections with anybody outside of my own family. So when the boys would run up to me and tell me what they placed in the meat, my husband was busy working the scoring table, so he was inside. I'm outside. Was on snack duty and making sure they had what they needed when they were in between their heats. It was just interesting to kind of sit back and watch. So, Hygge isn't always about candles and cocoa. It can be proximity, like showing up, taking one small intentional step towards connection, even when it feels awkward or vulnerable. So, the research that I've been looking at recently from the Harvard Adult Development Study says they found that strong, consistent social connections are the single greatest predictor of long-term well-being. Not wealth, not career milestones, but relationships. Even weak ties, like the acquaintance that you meet, right? The barista that you greet weekly, the neighbor on their morning walk, the swim dad who offers you a chair or a smile and says hello. That can significantly increase your sense of belonging and emotional resilience. And that comes from the University of Chicago study that was conducted in 2021. So, what does that mean for us practically? Here's 4 slow, simple ways to reconnect locally in your community. If you're feeling that alone or loneliness feeling, like I've explained, you can say yes to a local event. You can look on Facebook or Instagram or any of your other social outlets, community boards, and see what's happening in your backyard and go. Say yes, I'm going, and show up, even if it feels small or unfamiliar. Check out the markets, the weekend farmers markets that are going on in your area. See if there's a museum exhibit that you might be interested in going to, or just a social event that's going on. There's lots going on now that it's summer in the Northern Hemisphere in this part of the world. So there'll be more going on outside. We know research has shown, and I've spoken about this on previous podcasts that I've had, where you get out in nature, you're going to feel better just automatically about your connections to nature. But then you can also connect with humans in your backyard. Introduce yourself to at least one person in your neighborhood or a community circle. Say hi. We encourage kids to do the same when they go to school for the first time, or start the year for the first time, or they're the new kid at school, to meet new friends. So it can feel lonely when you're in your later years in life and you feel like you've already been there, done that. You've met all the friends that you want to meet. But in my situation, I'm not living where I grew up. And I grew up in North Carolina, in the Raleigh area, and all my friends have kind of scattered to the wind. We've moved. We're a commuter society. We move around. And so the one place that I still connect with people is Facebook or Instagram. That's where I find my friends from high school and college, and I can connect with them on a regular basis and I can keep up with them. But I don't live where I grew up, so it's harder to connect with those social ties that know me, and I don't have to, share my background story and, answer a bunch of questions when I'm interacting with them because they know me. When you move to different areas, you have to kind of start that process all over again. And I do that well in the work setting, but in my social, personal setting, I don't really make enough time for that. And I'm just being honest. It's a reflection. I can definitely work on that. So think about introducing yourself to one person this week or this month and set a goal if that's something that you want to work on. Offer a hand to help set up something. Like I, jumped in and helped set up a tent yesterday. Consider volunteering, or when you go to your kids' next event, help set up something, or pick up some trash around the area, or recycle, or pass out snacks, whatever's going on that needs, just observe and see what there's a need for and jump in and introduce yourself at the same time. Or consider starting up a tradition. Maybe there's a new coffee shop that just opened up and you want to maybe go in there and introduce yourself and start a meetup, maybe a front porch book swap or a neighborhood walk. There's lots of ways that we can get involved in our community. And I think it's time to kind of start reconnecting, revisiting those old school ways of just, if you've seen two trucks pulled over chatting on a quiet country road, that's what people do to connect. They just pull over and start talking. They haven't seen each other in a while. We do that with our neighbors quite often. We see each other and we wave when we go by, either walking or driving, but consider just pulling over and checking in and saying hi for a minute. In our fast-paced world, just slowing down and reconnecting is going to make a difference. So, as the Beatles once sang, though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before from in my life. Yes, we carry all those places and people with us, but real belonging, it starts with where your feet are now. So consider connecting and checking in with the people around you. So that's it for today's episode of the Go Slow to Go Fast Lifestyle Podcast. I'd love to hear from you on what's bringing you Hygge this week, or if you've ever felt alone in a crowd. Does it resonate with you? Does this podcast hit your heart in any particular way that you want to comment about? Let me know. What's one small way that you might reconnect locally this month? Let's keep the conversation going. Reach out to me in social. The information's in my show notes for my Instagram and my website. But I hope that you consider tagging me in your cozy, calm, or community moments. I want to cheer you on, and you're going to inspire me. If you reach out and let me know what you're doing, I might decide to do something similar. So if this episode resonated with you, forward it to a friend who might need the reminder. You're not alone. Belonging is built. It's not found. It's not just going to seek you out. We've got to make it happen. So let me know. what you're doing to connect. And I'd be so grateful if you'd take a minute to rate and review the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Your review helps more intentional, heart-centered people find this place. And it lets me know what is resonating with you as well. So just a few words can go a long way. Thank you for being part of this slow and meaningful journey. And this is episode 20, so it's exciting for me. I remember around this time last year, I was thinking about starting this podcast and I was in planning mode and I just didn't know if I was going to get it off the ground because I was worried about perfection. But I moved past that, and while I still make mistakes in this space, hitting episode 20 is exciting for me. So I hope that you'll stay with me now that you're listening, and let's walk through this season, whatever it is, with confidence, purpose, and a little extra grace. Until next time, the light in me honors the light in you. And as you head into the rest of your week, let your light shine through. Remember to go slow to go fast. And thanks for listening.